Hey Reader Pops, welcome back. I feel like I haven't posted a book video in kind of a while, but don't worry, I'm back and I have my June wrap up of every book I read this month. The month started off interesting. The first book I read was Winter in Paradise by Elin Hilderbrand. This is actually a trilogy, I think, and it's basically a romance and also a mystery, but mostly, I'd say it's like pretty evenly mystery and romance, I guess. But Elin Hilderbrand is known for writing amazing summer books, and I just figured for the start of June, I would try to read something especially summery. But I will say the one thing about her books is that she does write in third person and from a lot of different POVs, so just know that in case that affects your reading at all. Sometimes it affects mine when it's third person. Is the lighting really dark or are my eyes broken? But basically, Irene gets a call that her husband has passed away on the Caribbean island St. John, which is very weird to her. So she goes to this island with her two sons and they try to piece together what has happened to her husband. And it turns out this man was having an affair and like a whole different life on this island, and he was known as the secret man. And so then you just kind of watch them live on St. John, and you see the two brothers go into this town and they have their family drama, but then they also have new romances budding with this girl who already lives on the island, and then the two brothers are kind of fighting over her. And I would say this is one of those books where it was like, it was fun in the moment, but it was also one of those things where I was like trying to like it more than I actually did. So I feel like in reality, this was a 3 stars from me, and I don't really have that much interest in picking up another Elin Hilderbrand book, but her books really work for some people. But there's always like cheating involved, and that's just another thing that kind of deters me from reading them. So it was fun in the moment, but I'm not ever really gonna think about this book again type of thing. Okay, next I read my first Sarah Dessen book. This is The Rest of the Story, and if you don't know, she is a very popular YA romance novelist, and one of her most popular books, Along for the Ride, just became a movie on Netflix, which I like kind of put on and watched in the background, and it was pretty cute. This one is about a girl named Emma who goes back to her mother's town. I guess it's her mother and her father's town, and it's a lake town, so she's very good for like the summer romance vibes. I was really craving some like lakeside summer YA vibes, so that's why I picked this up. And she's basically discovering how there's a working class part of the lake town, and then there's like a wealthy part, and how her parents came from different sides, and both sides know her by a different name, and she's just kind of coming of age, going to parties for the first time. Boys are trying to date her, stuff like that. But I just found it was very difficult for me to get through this book. It's 440 pages, and I just feel like every conversation, every event was so fleshed out that I was like, okay, I got bored for a lot of it. But I also think maybe I'm just not the audience for this book, because so many people say that Sarah Dessen raised them. Maybe one of her other books is really good, but I would give this 3 stars, but I did not enjoy it that much. Now the rest of the books I'm gonna rave about. So this is the first ever ARC that I've gotten and read, and if you don't know what an ARC is, it stands for Advanced Reader's Copy, and basically when an author is going to come out with a book, they'll send some ARCs to some book influencers so that they can read them and review them early or recommend them, so that it kind of gets on your radar so that you buy it when it comes out. And I've never really received one before because I'm not really seen as a booktuber, I guess. I don't know why, because this whole channel is basically book videos. But my favorite author ever, Lynn Painter, who wrote Better Than the Movies, which all of you guys should know by now is like one of my favorite books ever. She's coming out with another young adult romance book in November, and she sent me the ARC for it, and that is The Do-Over. Look at how beautiful this is obviously like not the completed version, but she sent it to me way in advance and I read it the week I got it. It's only like 275 pages, so I flew through this book and I love it so much. I don't know how she does it, but the way that she writes, she creates the most swoon-worthy, angsty, realistic characters who you just, oh my gosh, it's just perfect. It's like the exact feelings that you want to have when you read a cute little young adult romance book. And this one, I didn't even know what the concept was before going into it, but basically it's Valentine's Day and she keeps waking up and reliving Valentine's Day, which whenever I hear concepts like that, I get worried because it just sounds like it's gonna be repetitive and boring, but this was not repetitive or boring whatsoever. And I was also scared that because I love Better Than the Movies so much that in my head the entire time I was just gonna compare that to this. And let me tell you, that did not happen at all. It was the signature Lynn Painter style that I loved so much, but a completely different story, and one that I loved equally as much as Better Than the Movies. I can't even say more or less. Like, I love them both equally, which is crazy because my love for Better Than the Movies is like sky high. So this just fulfilled every expectation ever. So I'm so happy about this. The second it comes out in November, you guys should buy it, or you should pre-order it so that she can get on bestseller lists. I just think she deserves the world. She has been like the nicest author to me ever, and I am obsessed with every book that she writes. So this is like a 6-star book to me. I think that there should be 5 stars, but like books that really just do something and hold a special place in your heart should get 6 stars. Okay, next, this is super out of my comfort zone, but I decided to read a little memoir, and that is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This is a book that I really see a lot in this very aesthetic, smart girl, sad girl aesthetic on Instagram. I don't really know what the genre is, but this is a memoir. I've also heard a lot about Dolly Alderton, so I wanted to read this. She basically just goes through a bunch of stories related to love in her life. She was like a crazy partier, so she has so many crazy stories, and that is what I read it for. I was not reading this as like advice for my life at all. It more so was like you had a friend come over to drink a glass of wine and she was gonna gossip to you about all the crazy stories from her party days. That is what this book was. And at first I was gonna DNF it because I was like, oh no, this is gonna be cheesy and I'm not gonna agree with anything that she says. But it was not like that at all. It was like, okay, now that we settled in, I'm just getting to hear like crazy, like it just feels like I'm peeping into somebody's diary entries. So that was so fun and just something super different that I haven't really read. And I think it's like the first memoir I've read this year. I really don't read many of them at all. So I'm glad I picked it up. And I also really like how it's like a paper cardboard book. I've never felt a book like this. I would give this like 4 stars, I think, 3.5. Okay, next we have a new 5-star read, which I'm so glad because this is one of the prettiest covers ever this year. And that is Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau. This is a coming of age story set in the 70s, which is my absolute favorite time period ever. And basically you have 14-year-old Mary Jane and she goes over to nanny at this new house. And basically she enters a whole new world when she nannies at this house because she comes from a very conservative, rigid, kind of faking that everything looks perfect on the outside type family. And then she goes to nanny at this house where the dad is actually a psychologist for a recovering drug addict rock star and his super famous pop star television famous wife, and they're super expressive with their emotions to each other. They just sing in the living room and they wear clothes that she's never seen before, and they talk about how he used to smoke weed, and it's just like this completely different experience from what she's grown up with and known. And it even touches on women's roles in the household at this time period and how racist people were, which was crazy to read, and I can't believe that was only 1970s. That's pretty terrifying. But it's just that weird coming of age where you're like, oh, do I agree with everything that my parents agree with and all these things? But it was just so fun. Like, this is a completely character driven story and I just absolutely loved all the characters. Or you hate them, but you feel strongly towards every character. I've never just read like a women's fiction book. I always have like romance or fantasy or something, and this was a great experience and I highly recommend that you guys read it. Look how beautiful it is for your beach trip. Okay, next I read Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan. I think this is her debut novel, and look at how beautiful it is. That definitely influenced me a little bit to buy it. Also, all of my friends and even me had the same reaction to the title, Nora Goes Off Script. Nora is so crazy. I don't know why everyone had that reaction to it. It's just kind of funny. But anyways, Nora is this screenwriter for cheesy romance movies, and one of her more hard-hitting stories gets adapted into a movie, and it's actually about her own life and her own divorce. And so they come to her house to shoot the movie, and you've got this super attractive, handsome lead male character of the movie, and he just kind of sticks around. After the movie is done wrapping, he just keeps trying to like hang out with Nora, and then you kind of just follow this as you're like, okay, is this guy gonna stick around? Are they gonna fall in love? What's going on? And you kind of got the trope of like this super famous guy just wants to escape into a small town for a little bit, and it's really cute how he treats her kids. I gave this 4.5 stars. This was just so happy. Like, this is exactly what I wanted to read. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like, oh, I just want a happy, cute little fun romance with a good setting, good vibes, characters that I like, dialogue that I like, and this is exactly that. Her writing is very brief. Like, all of her sentences were very short, so I feel like that could almost come off a little bit cold, but I just really liked this book. It was like a simple romance slash women's fiction and very, very, very little spice. Like, I think there's like, you know what's happening, but it's pretty much closed door, I think. I'm pretty sure I picked it up because I knew that there was like not much at all in this. I highly recommend that one. This one is so interesting. I'm trying to remember my thoughts. I read this so recently. I read Float. Oh, now I remember my thoughts. Okay. I just read Float by Kate Marchant, and this actually was a book that started on Wattpad. This girl named Waverly gets sent to go hang out with her aunt for 1 month in summer in Florida. It's kind of like a next door neighbor romance type of thing, and also coming of age a little bit, her making friends in this new town. And my thoughts about this book were that it started off so cheesy, so Wattpad-y. The main character is so overly dramatic, like just tripping over herself and being like, oh my gosh, I am literally the stupidest girl from Alaska. No one from Florida is going to like me, that kind of vibe. But then towards the end of the book, I was like, wait, this is way better written. And somewhere along the way, this became a completely different book that I really liked. And then I read the acknowledgements at the end, and she started writing this book when she was 15 years old. And then she graduated high school, went to college for writing, and then finished this book. And I feel like it's actually kind of cool because you can really tell how much she progressed. Like, the first few chapters were definitely written by a 15-year-old, but by the end I was like, this girl has gone to writing college. For that alone, it's kind of cool. But yeah, this was so cute, summery vibes. If you just want like a cheesy young adult romance book with the beach setting. I highly recommend this, but just beware those first few chapters. You're going to be like, okay, yeah, this was written on Wattpad by a 15-year-old, exactly how it said it was. Okay, I still have 2 more books to talk about, but I just have to show you. This is the most beautiful stack of books that I've ever read. Like, look at how they all match each other. They all have the same vibe. The next 2 books are completely not the same vibe, which is hilarious because that's a video I'm doing on my main channel where I read books out of my comfort zone. Very out of left field. I read The Guest List by Lucy Foley, which is a thriller mystery book. This one actually won the Good Choice Awards one year, I believe, and it's part of Reese's book club. And basically the setting is this small island off of Ireland in Ireland, and you've got a wedding going on, and you have 5 different POVs from first person, which I love. You have the bride, the +1, the best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaid, and all of them have secrets. All of them are hiding something, and then a murder takes place, but you're kind of getting like 1-page glimpses at what happens in the future in the wedding when like someone is getting murdered, just like tiny little glimpses, and then it goes back to present day. But I absolutely loved this because it was just so atmospheric. I loved the setting, I loved the characters and how defined each of them was, but it wasn't scary, because that's my thing with thrillers and mysteries. I am very easily spooked. I don't want to read anything scary. I don't really want to read anything paranormal or anything that's gonna like make me scared to be home alone type of thing. And this did not do that. It was just like a, ooh, everyone has a secret, I wonder what their secret is, I wonder who's the killer type of thing. And then I loved the ending. So I think I originally gave this 5 stars, and then I read reviews and I was like, oh, maybe I only gave it 5 stars because I never read thrillers, but I'm gonna say this is a solid 4.5, 5 stars. Also, I really liked her writing. I thought it was really beautiful. I'm gonna keep this 5 stars. Yeah, I highly recommend if you want a thriller. And then last of the month, I read These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. As you can tell, these are the only 2 books that are very different vibe from the rest of them, but this is a young adult fantasy book, and I was recommended this as ACOTAR with no spice. There actually is spice in this, so don't know where that recommendation came from. I guess they're just saying it's like way less spice than ACOTAR. And there's nothing crazy in this book. It's just like more than I was expecting when I got told there was none. So just beware, it's young adult, but it still has like, it has like 2 scenes that are kind of like, oh, whoa, I was not expecting that. But basically there's this girl named Bree, and there are fairies in this world. She is not one of them, and she is super attached to her sister because her dad died and her mom left. So it's just like her and her sister, and she's very protective over her little sister. And it kind of gives off Cinderella vibes in the beginning because they just like live in the basement and they live with this evil aunt and evil stepsisters. And then this evil aunt one day just sells her sister into the fairyland world, which is very dangerous, and they're just like in servitude for the rest of their lives. So she has to then go into the fairy dangerous land and to go like, she has to figure out where her sister is and how to save her. And she's basically caught between the good fairyland and the bad fairyland. The evil fairy guy gives her a list of things that she needs to steal from the good fairy court. And in this this is so weird to explain. This is why I rarely read fantasy. Spock, I'm filming a book video. So basically in the good fairy court, you know the book The Selection where the prince has to choose the next princess? That's basically happening. So she has to like win the good graces of the next prince so that she can go steal all these things so that she can save her sister. And then a love triangle is formed. You don't know who's good, you don't know who's evil. There are plot twists, which I really liked, and this was 440 pages, but I finished it in 2 days, which is pretty fast for me. So I really enjoyed it, but I wasn't like, it didn't give me what The Cruel Prince gave me. So it's a 4-star, but the sequel comes out in July. So I'm very excited to read that because that might be like, oh, I'm obsessed with that. But I'm tending to notice that with a lot of these fantasy series, I don't ever really get obsessed with the first book, but I really enjoyed it. So I'm very hopeful for this series. And I liked getting to go into the young adult fantasy realm for a little bit. These are all the books that I read this month. It was a very fun reading month, and I am so excited for next month because it's going to be so different than anything I've ever read before. So let me know your favorite book that you've read recently or what you want to read for summer, especially. Check out my main channel if you don't know that exists. I just completed a series where I lived alone for a month. And then I also have Instagram and TikTok that I'm on like way too much. So I will see you guys somewhere else on the internet, and I love you so much. Bye. I can't get close because Spock is here, so that's just gonna have to be the end of that.